All right, Cardi, there's lots of games here at the Capcom booth. You got Mega Man, you got a few others. No Monster Hunter this year, which is interesting, but two big boys out as well. Devil May Cry, like Resident Evil 7, well, Resident Evil 8, no, Remake 2. Yes. Resident Evil Remake 2. Devil May Cry, let's chat about Devil May Cry. What do you think?
I gotta say, Capcom are absolutely kicking goals at the moment, aren't they? Devil May Cry 5, the latest in the series, chronologically and release date. I don't think it's the DMC 6 there, but it's absolutely fantastic. Looks awesome, runs awesome, plays awesome.
And it really is that thing of, it's got that classic mechanic. He has the arm mechanic now, which changes the way you play because different arms have different mechanisms attached to them. Yeah. Some have bombs, some have electricity, whatever the case may be. So it really does alter your playstyle. But for me, the thing that stands out, and this is one thing that Devil May Cry has been known for, how good is that aesthetic? Jesus, it looks nice. Like, it's the right kind of grimy.
Yeah, even Itsuno-san had actually exclaimed and admitted that he took a lot of cues from the reboot, a lot of things that worked for the reboot aesthetically. You know, we could argue all day about this, but we'll say that there's a lot of influence there, and it definitely shows.
Yeah, and it just adds that extra, like, bit of Capcom gloss to it and changes it a bit, which looks fantastic. Yeah. Super Keen comes out, I think, March next year.
Yeah. Also, Gerbera, the Devil Bringer, or the Devil Breaker, that allows you to do air dashes, is incredibly overpowered. Please use it. Always use it. It is the best Devil Breaker there is.
There you go. That's the tip for you. The game I didn't play, but you did, and looks really, really good. Biohazard RE2, they're calling it here. Resident Evil 2 Remake. What are your thoughts?
Just call it Resident Evil. You're not Japanese. Get over it.
Biohazard.
There we go. So yes, Resident Evil 2, the remake to the it's a very highly weighted remake to a very critically well-received survival horror game. Gotta say, there are no doubts about it. A lot of people were skeptical of its tone, some of the changes. There's nothing to worry about here. The tone is even better than the original game. Everything from the lighting, everything from the aesthetic, to the damage modeling, to the acting, the dialogue, it's all there. It's a B-movie incarnate. It is amazing.
And you were saying that it takes a lot of the cues from Revelations as far as movement and the actual gameplay goes.
Yeah, so narratively speaking, the characters do feel a little bit clumsy. You know, they don't evade, they don't have like full like super soldier abilities, but that's it. Like Resident Evil 2 chronicles Claire Redfield as well as Leon Kennedy's first foray and interactions with zombies. I mean, it's Leon's first day on the force, so of course there's going to be a bit of jank and stuff like that, but it works. Like it feels like it's intentional, like it's actually meant to be there.
No Wesker blood suplexes that were from 6 in this one.
No context sensitivity, but the good thing is that it's really tense. Like, I mean, you may be complaining about no fixed camera angles, but every single area is so claustrophobic. Like, you're fighting William Birkin in the Claire campaign in like narrow corridors, and it's goddamn, it is the scariest thing I've ever played. Leon Kennedy, on the other hand, obviously Claire being a bit more combat oriented, which is great because she's badass. Her characterization is amazing. I mean, she came to town on a motorbike, so
she's a Redfield.
She's automatically badass right there. Leon Kennedy, on the other hand, scenes are a bit more kind of slow paced, a bit more puzzle oriented, but I think it's the variety that we all need. Like, it's not just them being, obviously they're in the same scenario, but they're changed and altered around a bit, much like Revelations 2. So it feels like an amalgamation of everything that the Resident Evil teams have learned throughout the last 10 years of development and are combining to create an incredibly solid product.
And it is a bit of a return to roots. Number 7, fantastically received game, but that first person kind of American body horror they went for a little bit. So it's a little bit of a return to what they were known for originally.
It is absolutely gruesome as well. And I'm just going to say it right here. This is a ringing endorsement. Capcom know what they're doing. They are kicking so many goals at the moment. And Resident Evil Remake 2, oh man, it is a sign of the times.
And that is Capcom at Tokyo Game Show.
Hey, Cringing Card here at the Sony booth at Tokyo Game Show 2018. There's a lot of stuff here at Sony. Seeing Kingdom Hearts, seeing just a lot of games actually that are at other booths. And to be honest, I'm seeing more than I would have expected from Sega Kart.
Oh, right you are. You're a very perceptive man, aren't you? Anyway, we'll jump straight into it because I'm a big Yakuza fan and the studio's got a new project out called Project Judge, funnily enough. Also known in Japan as Judge Eyes. Now, this is a spin-off of the Yakuza series. It shows up in Kamurocho, it takes place there. And there's a lot of new things that it's doing. Obviously, it's reutilizing the Dragon engine, probably the most spruced up we've ever seen at the moment. If you really want to, go check out the PS4 demo at the Japanese store because that's basically what it is, plus a little bit more. There's a couple more free roaming segments, some of the mini games where you walk around, run around in a VR headset beating up people with like translucent tonfa.
So the Tokyo Game Show demo they've got here is just an expansion of the PSN demo?
A little bit of that, and then you can do a bit of free roam afterwards, because
Right.
the demo doesn't last for very long.
Yeah.
So like you can do some side stuff in the meantime, like a bit of free roam. Very restrictive. You only have 15 minutes. So like again, it looks great. The demo's coming across really nicely, and we can't wait until it's released later on this year.
Yeah. Speaking of Sega, actually, Catherine is here as well. I checked it out actually at the Sega booth, and it's interesting. 15 minutes exactly, because they always have the little egg timer next to it.
Yes.
But this is Catherine Full Body. It's a release, I don't know, expansion might be the right kind of word.
An enhanced port.
Yeah, that's fair. So at least in Japan, it's going to be PS4 and Vita. This one is showing off some of the new mechanics. There are some new blocks. Some of the new blocks, at least in single player, like grouped together, so you can pull out two at once. You played more of the multiplayer though. What were some of the gimmicks there?
So I gotta say, I feel very sorry for the French guy I was paired with, because we smashed him. I'm so sorry. Anyway, moving on. There are some brand new power-ups, some brand new blocks. Like a lot of it has a lot of horizontal spread.
Yes.
And combining that with some of the power-ups, which are power downs, they're kind of detrimental. So if you come across a skull, if you touch that, it'll basically like automatically move for you. So it can either be a really good thing or an incredibly bad thing.
I was thinking like maybe it'd be debuffs for the enemy, but no, it just ruins your life.
Yep. So there's also online multiplayer too, so that was missing from the first game.
Yes.
So it was a very big omission, because I mean there's a big, fairly competitive scene going on, and it's great that they're acknowledging that and adding more multiplayer bells and whistles.
Yeah.
So across the board, again, it's going to be interesting to see what the story holds for us.
Yeah, because you were saying you didn't want them to kind of retcon a lot of what the first game did, because that might be a little bit a bit of a mistake. Hopefully they don't do that,
Yeah,
obviously.
because the first game was wonderful in its own right, so hopefully they add more and they don't omit or retcon, because, you know, that's going to live or die based on how it's handled. Anyway, moving onwards, you're out of here, because we're going to be talking about Sekiro. So Sekiro is the latest From Software game. Haha, it's just like Dark Souls. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. A lot more along the lines of Tenchu, and it's funny considering that Activision is actually publishing this.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's going back to its roots. I mean, they did that with Tenchu ages ago outside of Japan, so it feels like a reunion of sorts. So the way characters and bosses work is that it takes a lot of cues from Nioh, which took a lot of cues from stuff like Bloodborne and Souls, where you got to exhaust a stamina meter for a lot of the bosses.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like 3 stages, the Nintendo rule of doing the same thing 3 times. Gets more intense, there's more phases. It's a far more compartmentalized and a far more, I guess, like, not conservative, but it just feels like it's really neatly packaged. Like From Software,
Maybe concise.
very concise,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, unlike me. So, yeah, the way it works is that you knock that stamina meter bar down, go for some huge damage, like almost like a visceral attack in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's very, I wouldn't say it's formulaic, but it tells you you need to play a specific way.
It's familiar in a way.
It's very familiar. You need to actually like do a bit of stealth. There's certain segments where you got knee-high grass and you can take down enemies. A bit of guarding, but like I said, don't let a katana like constantly guard for you all the time, because that's gonna break. So it's very different to what we expect. It's a bit more kind of like a bit more reserved than Bloodborne, but again, not as reserved as Souls. And constantly, I find Souls a little bit tedious in its approach, and it's knocking out a lot of that tedium.
Yeah.
Very, very good thing. So can't wait to see what we got in store, because it's going to be a while until it comes out.
Yeah.
But there's some really, really fantastic things from Software as well as Sega.
All right, Cardi, it's that time. It's time for the wrap for Namco Bandai. Play us a beat. No, don't do that. You've played a lot of the games here at the Namco Bandai booth. You want to reel them off?
Yeah, so I would say that, I mean, Bandai Namco has always had such a strong following here and a strong showing every single year. But I'd say it's probably the most diverse it's been in quite some time. I mean, you've got your occasional, like, Ace Combat 7, you know. The previous game, Assault Horizon, was a bit of a kind of a... It focused a bit too much on aesthetic, a bit too much on presentation, and not too much on the simulation aspects of dogfighting and air combat. But this one in particular goes back to its roots, provides a bit more of a simulation, and is a far more solid experience than Assault Horizon.
And the other ones that you have played that I've played, Jump Force, what was the other one? Soul Calibur and World Seeker. Jump Force. So, Burning Blood. It's basically Burning Blood with all the Shonen Jump characters this time instead.
Yeah, so you're very standard fare arena combat. Again, it's pretty solid, but I'm just going to go out and say it right now. I absolutely loathe the aesthetic. Like, I think they're obviously going for a more gritty angle, trying
Going for that semi-real, yeah.
Yeah, they're really going for that, pushing for that Western audience, and its reveal at E3 really speaks volumes. But I look at it, and every single character looks like their clothing is just covered in fiberglass, and their skin just looks like pig skin. Like they look like a football. It's ridiculous.
It is a little, I must say, the aesthetic is a little bit jarring on what is a good base of a game. Like, if you enjoyed Burning Blood and that kind of 3D Arena Fighter, that they almost originate, like them and Naruto originated, you know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty enjoyable game, but yeah, I'm kind of with you. I hope they spend the next little bit polishing up that aesthetic, because it's a little bit mank. But if we're doing contentious shit, if we're doing the ones that World Seeker, it's a Luffy game set on an island where he's like going around as a character RPG.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess Grand Line isn't really much in a priority.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, but I find it interesting because, like, you know, being able to travel around, like, doing that Spider-Man stuff of, like, you know, using Gomu Gomu to, like, approach, like, higher areas and stuff. An open world aesthetic seems pretty good for a game like that, but it seems that Luffy's stuck in one particular area. Maybe there's some sort of story explanation where maybe there's, like, some sort of Bermuda Triangle thing where the current's brought back to him and, you know, his ship's ruined or something and he's staying in the one spot. But, yeah, I am with you on that one. It doesn't seem to suit narratively or tonally with
like, how do you bring the other guys in? Are they playable, or is it only playable as Luffy? Like to me, it's one of those things, like, as much as One Piece is about Luffy, it's about the ensemble, you know? So I wonder how they're going to do it, whether they're going to do it, you're separated from them and that's how you're doing it, or, I don't know, I just don't understand how it's going to pan out in the end.
I mean, good on them for trying something new. I mean, it's not another Burning Blood, but it seems like they're pretty much applying the foundations of Unlimited World Red.
Yeah.
So it seems like what they've been wanting to do for quite some time.
Yeah. So that is true. And then the last one, I guess, is Soul Calibur. So this is very close to release. We're talking a month from about today. What are your thoughts on playing it after playing it?
Well, it seems like it's very much close to the final build. You've got Cervantes, everyone's husbando and stuff like that. So it's great to be able to pit, like, father and daughter, Ivy together, fighting each other. So again, like, fairly solid experience, seems approachable from all angles. Soul Calibur's always been like that. It's always been, like, you know, easy to pick up, very hard to master. So
Vertical, horizontal kick. What is there to know?
Absolutely, and that's all it needs to do. Like, it's really hard to mess a Soul Calibur game up, except for 5, but 6 is looking pretty solid.
So that is probably it for Namco Bandai. I guess of them you've played so far at Namco, what was the pick?
I gotta say, it's great to see Ace Combat back, so I'm gonna go with Ace Combat 7.
Fair enough, Cardi. And that is Namco at TGS.